list of topics?
I do. Well, not a list of topics, actually, just a conversation. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
I got a couple of things I want to run by you.
Okay.
So this is the Purple Pill podcast concept here.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the question: is choice an illusion? So I'm going to ask you that question.
That's a super cool question, because I just watched a really good show about that, actually. Have you heard of the show Devs? So I'll tell you the philosophy that I got from behind it instead of explaining the show, because it's a really good show. But they present that idea that choice is an illusion, and that everything that happens in reality is predictable. It's just so complex, and
So you don't have like the processing power to deal with it?
not even the most powerful computer in the world could possibly predict what's going to happen next. But the idea is that, like, my hand is up like this, and I'm going to move my hand in a very specific pattern, in a very specific way, because I learned that from my dad or my brother, and he learned that from them. And theoretically, if you could compute and put in all of the information about me, about my existence, about where my existence comes from, about every single factor that has ever could possibly be applicable to me.
Well, then here's another question. Sorry to interrupt you, but I think I see the direction you're going, and I want to ask you: do you think? Two questions actually. Do you think that there is a collective consciousness, and do you think that your dreams, not always but ever, are your dreams ever sort of telling you the future?
So for the first question, I think collective consciousness is God. Like, I think that, like, that's omnipotence. Like, if we could, and that's another, like, this is where, like, why I love how much I love movies and TVs. I don't get a lot of, like, my philosophical thoughts and opinions based off of readings and texts. I get them from television shows and movies, which is kind of funny, but, like, it helps to extrapolate from them. So this is, again, from an anime.
That's how humans learn.
Yeah, like, everybody's different. Everybody takes in information in their own way and then applies it in their own way.
The stories are actually the most effective way.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
But so, the anime I've wanted you to watch, like Neon Genesis. Do you remember me talking about that?
No, but it's funny that it's called Neon Genesis. Does it have to do with the same concept?
Oh yeah, it's all about new beginnings.
Oh yes, I do remember you talking about that. Yes,
yeah.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
And so, like, that whole deal is exactly that. That there is a collective consciousness that we could theoretically become again. We all, like, in the show, every living being becomes like a soup almost, and then comes together as this one entity, and the whole show is very bleak and very depressing, because life can be super bleak and super depressing, and a lot of that depression, a lot of that, like, the hardships of life come because we are separate, because there is, like, we're not the same person, and you can't see the world as I see it. Even the most empathetic person in the entire world can never see the world through my eyes. So, like, I am going to have things that are going to step on your toes, even when I don't mean to. And that could be something small or that could be something big. But, like, because every single person, every single entity that is alive is separate, it, like, creates pain and it creates hardship. So if I could understand every single thing about you and about why you do it that way, because we are the same person, how could I make you feel pain? Because I totally understand you.
Yeah.
So I never would want you to feel pain.
So you're saying, like, pain and these emotions are all, like, just miscommunications?
Because we're separate.
Yeah.
Because we're different. And, like, so, like, the idea that show presents is that, like, you become this singular entity, and, like, the idea, right, is that depression and sadness go away. But so does connection. So does, like, existence. Like, inherently, like, you've lost that sense of self, and even though that sense of self comes with pain and comes with hardship, it also comes with, like, individualized love. It comes with your own personal feeling of choice. Whether or not choice is real or not, you feel that you're making choices, that you are going through life in your own beats, in your own way, in the way that best suits yourself. And so, going back to that other show talking about, is choice real, at the end of the day, does it matter if it's real or not? Because is the idea, even if it is just an illusion, is the illusion more important than the fact that it's not real? You know, because like that illusion gives us that sense of reality and allows
so you're saying you take the blue pill basically.
That's where it's hard, you know, like I like obviously, you know, having seen The Matrix, you know, I in a way, like, you want to be that Neo character, the one who takes the red pill.
And you want to be, exactly.
But, like, at the end of the day, like, do you? You know, like, it's like, I think that, like, without, like, I've always been a believer that without pain, there is no healing. You know, with, like, you need the lows to get the highs. Because, like, you know, from a song I heard, it's, I don't remember exactly how it goes, but it's expecting perfection leaves a lot to endure. When the past is the present and the future's no more. When every tomorrow is the same as before. So it's basically saying, like, if you're just expecting life to be perfect, right, without having those lows, life would just be boring. It would just suck. If it was like imagine like a constant high. That's just a straight line.
No, it totally makes sense. I mean, you can just even show it in like rich people. It's like they'll strive their whole life, and that's the only thing they want is to get rich. They'll get rich, and then it's like, I'm still unhappy. Shoot,
exactly.
You need more money.
Yeah, and so it's like I that's where I do think like that God is like a form of understanding of is the essence
manifestation
of everything
yeah,
all in one, and that is what the Big Bang was. Like, you know, like that was the whole idea of it, right?
Is that what, separating from each other?
Yeah, okay. Is that everything was condensed into one singular point, a singularity, and it all exploded outward into difference, into things separating in themselves, into individualism. You know, like, but at one point before the Big Bang, like, I mean, I guess nobody knows, right? Like, you know, it could have just been Big Bang, but like, if we go based off of what the theory of the Big Bang theory says,
I think the Big Bang theory makes a ton of sense. I think there's a reason that both theists and scientists accept it.
Yeah,
yeah. Of course, we're not going to be able to prove the beginning of the universe. Like, I mean, that's just like
it was 14 billion years ago. How could we know? Like, but like, they're like going off of that basis. There was a singularity, and like everything came from that singularity. You know, so with it all being in one, like, there is no like pain, there's no suffering, there's no destruction, but then there's no creation. You know, like, and that's where like that separation happened, like, in my opinion and in my eyes, and for a reason. Like, I think like the fact that we can try and figure out a reason for the universe is almost the reason for the universe. You know, the fact that we're not just a singular entity is why it spread out. You know, is where the necessity came from. Like, you know, but I don't know. Like, that's getting into a whole
and this is why I love the concept of the purple pill. Is that I feel like you shouldn't have to live either. You shouldn't have to accept false truths, and you shouldn't have to go into this world where you let all of your demons go astray and you have to fight them. You know, you don't have to fight your demons. They can't harm you. They're not actually physically able to touch you. And I'm not talking literally, but just in anything, like your paranoias, your whatever. It's like, how many, 1,000 times this noise happened outside where you have to go check your door or whatever, when it's like, did you really have to check your door? Probably not. I mean, there's probably never going to be someone out there, and you've just wasted a whole, like, thought process, and you've manifested it as if there were something there.
Yeah.
You're playing with apparitions, ghosts.
And it's like, the hard, you know, where it is hard to say, like, yeah, I'd grab the red pill is like, what would come
You're an American,
from it, right?
You want to be a hero.
Yeah, of course. But like, looking at it, like, what would come from that, right? Like, I take the red pill, and now I find out that, like, you know, it's just a bunch of like pizza monsters who are sitting on desks all day and have been typing up programming, and that's what our reality actually is. And now I pop out, cool, I know. What have I gained? Am I gonna stop the pizza monsters from making the universe anymore? No, fuck that, because I experienced, and I'm alive because of that programming. You know, and like that's where, like, it's different in the Matrix where it's like, no, like, you know, they're harvesting us for our information, and it could be something like that, right?
Well, I think the thing that Neo doesn't appreciate, even if they're harvesting us for our information, he's now in this world where he sees the truth as it is, supposedly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why doesn't he fucking look around and see and enjoy the fact that he now can, you know, like, I guess you could say warp light if we're trying to put it into our world, but or just like, you know, he now has essentially powers to do things in the world. He can actually see underneath the layers. He can see the universe and manipulate it how he wants.
Yeah.
He can basically play God in a way.
Yeah.
And he doesn't, you know, and instead he's still fighting demons that may or may not exist. It's like, why do you think you now know what is true any more than you ever did?
Yeah,
you
and
know?
that's they get into that in the next two. Have you seen the next two movies yet?
I've not.
So this is where like the next two movies struggle because like they're so pretentious that
really?
it's like almost hard to watch, and it's hard to understand what's going on. But when you get what they're trying to say, it's pretty cool. Like, so do you want me to tell you, or do you want?
No, I'd love to hear. Yeah.
So
please.
like Neo goes to see the architect, you know, who is the guy who, you know, the manifestation of like the creator of this game. And he explains to Neo that like Neo is not the first, or not game, but reality.
Okay.
Neo is not the first, you know, one. He's like the seventh. Like this, it's like a part of their programming. Like this is a part of like what they've chosen. Yeah, they've chosen to put him in here. He's not special. He thought he was special in the first one, but in reality, this is just more of part of the programming. Like, you know, and so
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So they really do that.
Like it struggles with, but then, you know, the third one just goes off the rails, you know, and again, like it has like a cool concept, but it's hard to know what to do from there. You know, like how do you continue to tell a compelling story about that? You know, like about breaking down the dimensions of our reality so that for what? He's gonna save our reality? And like,
well, at a certain point, I really do feel like they should have stopped at the first one because it was a good concept all in itself. When I heard there was a second and third one, I actually was a little bit like, I don't even know if I want to watch those. That feels very much like it was probably owned by a big studio, so they had to, sort of, you know what I mean? Because they knew it would make money. And it's like you almost literally have to. There's actually, in some ways, laws against not
sign contracts
maximizing shareholder value if it's
I don't know how big. I feel like they're more independent though.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, I think that in the way that, you know, they made the prequel Star Wars, and those movies are rough in ways, but like, you know, there was a story to be told. That's how they feel. Like it doesn't feel like okay, they're making these for money.
So you think? Oh, so you actually think there was a story they had fully outlined, and then trying to make it into a movie, it just didn't necessarily play.
Yeah, and I do think that maybe the outline wasn't totally there, but I think that there was love, and that it wasn't just entirely for money. And they are coming out with a fourth one.
Oh, I never think the creators are in it for money, but it's not like even necessarily about that. There's just like broader forces. It's like who owns your baby now, and you now can't talk about your baby essentially without permission of your overlords.
Yeah.
And it's like that sucks, but that's the world we live in, and it does allow give it fair credit on the other side. It does allow for all these things to be created and given to a mass audience in a way that it wouldn't be in other places where there's less ownership, I should say.
Yeah, like that's where the funding comes in.
That's where the funding comes in, yeah.
Like I just watched a video where a guy was like, yeah, it sucks that the corporations don't give a shit about art. And I feel like that is kind of true in some ways, where it's like
it sucks, but it's like, why would they? You know, it's like, in fact, I sometimes think it's shady when like super rich people like are spending these 30 million things on art. I'm like, feels like that's like a money laundering, like sort of a trick. It's like you're actually gonna pay $30 million for a contemporary artist, like in the modern day. Like you're gonna pay him $30 million for something they painted. It took them a couple days maybe.
Yeah.
Like,
but that's not like, I more of mean like big corporations, Disney, and like, you know, they put all the love into Marvel, which I love Marvel, you know, but I hated the new Star Wars, and the new Star Wars are very divisive films with the fan base, because I don't think that they were looking at it from the artistic perspective of Star Wars. They were looking at it from, how can we make money from this? And that's where I felt like that, where I have a hard time, you know, where it's like, man, like you have these 4 companies that own the entire entertainment industry, and they care more about making money than actually telling compelling stories.
Who do we got? ABC, Comcast,
Disney.
Disney's owned by ABC.
It is?
Yeah.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm. Or I'm sorry, vice versa. ABC's owned by Disney. Yeah.